Back in 2013, The Last of Us launched on the PS3, and thanks to its compelling story and impressive cast of characters, it quickly became one of the best exclusives on the platform. In 2016, we got a trailer announcing its sequel, teasing at a new story that focuses on revenge. After numerous delays, The Last of Us Part 2 is here and brings with it a bold new story that is sure to affect players on one level or another. I was initially of the opinion that a sequel wasn't necessary, but I'm actually so glad that I had the opportunity to experience everything the game has to offer. The story takes place about 4 years after the events of the original game. Joel and Ellie have built a life for themselves after settling down in Jackson, Wyoming. After an incident rocks the survival community, Ellie sets out on a quest of revenge that will test her physically, emotionally, and even mentally. It definitely focuses on a number of themes throughout, but the one that hit the hardest was how actions have consequences and how far those ripples go. The game's narrative picks up fairly early on, so I don't want to dive too much into it for fear of spoiling it for someone else. The Last of Us Part 2 is an incredible journey from start to finish and is actually a lot more impactful this time around. It starts off pretty slow but builds in intensity as you progress, and tension seems to be significantly prevalent this time, so much so that you'll end up with this uneasy feeling in your stomach a lot of the time. Where the first game took place over the course of 4 seasons, The Last of Us Part 2's main chunk takes place over 3 days. However, it feels as if much more time has passed due to there being multiple jumps back and forth between the past and present. These never felt particularly jarring and always gave some more context to the ongoing narrative and its cast, hitting different notes ranging from heartwarming to utterly bleak. The story makes a lot of bold moves, and personally I feel like Naughty Dog have really stuck the landing. The cast of characters you'll meet and spend time with is quite complex, and more importantly, they feel relatable. You spend a lot of time with a fair number of them, and you're bound to go through the motions of how you feel about each person you encounter. One of the more interesting things is that the game asks you to show empathy and maybe understand a character's motives, even if you don't really agree with their actions to any degree. In terms of gameplay, The Last of Us Part 2 plays very much like the first game, with some refinements which ultimately make it a much smoother experience and also allows for more than one method when approaching a situation. You can attempt a completely stealthy approach or take out enemies one by one with guerrilla tactics. I tend to prefer the former as it feels the most rewarding, however it's nice to be able to switch it up if things don't go according to plan. One of the newer abilities is that Ellie can now jump, however it doesn't feel like it brings much to the gameplay as you're mostly only able to jump at scripted sections. In terms of stealth, Ellie is now able to go completely prone, and this is great for hiding in tall grass or under large objects with enough space under them. That being said, it's best to keep moving all the time instead of lingering in one spot for too long. The stealth is more about adapting to the situation, which I actually really enjoyed. As mentioned before, guerrilla tactics are another way of dealing with enemies, and this is aided by the fact that Ellie is a little swifter on her feet than Joel was in the first game. She can dart all around, dive to go prone, and also slip between small gaps in order to break an enemy's line of sight. This kind of hit and run combat seems necessary though, as the enemy AI is a lot more aggressive and also smarter when it comes to fighting you. If you're dealing with a single enemy, another could run up from behind and grab you. Additionally, if you happen to cause a commotion, they'll sweep an area and even pull you out of your hiding place if you stay in one place for too long. Plus, they are dogs, and while these pups are cute, they can make your life a living hell if they pick up your scent. It adds an extra challenge to getting through an area and actually makes the experience feel more dynamic. Of course, it isn't just about the human enemies, as the world is still quite populated by the infected. All of the enemy types make a return in the sequel, but there are some new ones to challenge and terrify you. Honestly, the sections where you encounter infected are some of the best, and some of them are just downright scary. It really feels like the horror has been dialed up a bit and makes for some incredibly tense moments. The Last of Us Part 2 is a fairly linear experience, however there are a handful of areas where you're presented with a large open space to navigate and explore. At first, this feels quite overwhelming, but taking your time and exploring the area, just taking everything in, will quickly put you at ease. Exploration isn't just filler content though, you can actually pick up some decent equipment and also find some great supply caches to craft more items, making it quite rewarding. There are a number of weapons that Ellie will have at her disposal, some old and some new, and these can be improved by gathering scrap and modifying them at a workbench. Not only can their handling be tweaked to make them more deadly, but each upgrade changes the weapon's appearance as well. It's a nice touch, and the attention to detail is certainly welcomed. Another returning feature is the skill tree, however it's been greatly improved upon. Instead of just one skill tree, Ellie has 5, with each tree focusing on a specific skill set. These range from crafting to stealth. Supplements can be found throughout the game, and these allow you to unlock perks in a branch of skills, provided that you found the corresponding manual in-game. I really love how fleshed out the skill tree is in this game, as it gave me a choice of how I wanted Ellie to develop in terms of gameplay, but also made me excited as I decided where I would spend my supplements next. One of the biggest issues I had with the game was that it has some pretty long load times. Thankfully these don't happen when reloading a checkpoint, but it does take a good amount of time just to get into the game from the main menu. Visually, The Last of Us Part 2 looks incredible. I'm not even kidding when I say that it's possibly the best looking game I've ever played. The environments you'll encounter on your journey range from dilapidated buildings to abandoned suburbs with overgrown vegetation everywhere to completely flooded sections of the city. It really takes some of the aesthetics from the first game and expands upon it. The character models are also pretty amazing, but mainly because of the subtle expressions such as half smiles and eye rolls. It does a good job at driving the narrative and is particularly special during scenes of characters just having a casual conversation. The character models of the infected are also truly great, as they have so much more detail this time around and are actually just downright terrifying. Even the aftermath of a combat encounter is so vivid, as you see pools of blood and literal chunks of your enemies in the immediate area. The audio side of things is pretty much on par with the game's visuals. Gustavo Santaolalla returns to deliver a beautiful yet haunting score and just hits the right notes throughout the game. From quiet moments that convey loneliness to tense situations that ramp up the music to almost anxiety-inducing levels, it translates so well. The voice acting is quite stellar. The cast is notably larger this time around, but everyone still manages to deliver outstanding and authentic performances for both major and minor characters. The Last of Us Part 2 is an amazing experience. It makes some seriously bold moves with its narrative and is so compelling. You'll come to feel different emotions as the story progresses, and it'll continue this way until the campaign comes to a close. The gameplay is very similar to that of the first game, but thanks to refinements and new features, it feels like a significantly smoother experience. Going prone is a welcome feature, but adding in the ability to jump feels somewhat unnecessary, since it's really only used at scripted moments. Visually, it's a marvel to look at even on a launch PS4 console, and the audio is just as amazing with its soundtrack and stellar voice acting. I really enjoyed my time with The Last of Us Part 2, and the fact that it managed to leave such a lasting impression after my 30-hour playthrough is something that I truly appreciate. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button, and if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you got your hands on The Last of Us Part 2, please let me know what you thought of the game in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.